record. I invite you to hear now a word from co-author Riley. She's an author, a blogger, creates Black liturgies, and she has a book called This Here Flesh, Spirituality, Liberation, and the Stories That Make Us. Hear now these words. To rest is a special kind of power. Even someone who is direly overworked can close her eyes for 2 minutes and by the mercy of God, find those seconds stretched out into years, allowing the healing and regeneration she deserves to come back in a blink. It seems like anytime God is talking about salvation in the Bible, he, she, or they makes a point to name rest. I'll refresh tired bodies, says in Jeremiah. Find rest for your souls in Matthew. And in Psalm 23, we have, God makes me lie down. What a peculiar answer to the valley of the shadow of death. You might expect God's response to be to have people rise, to empower them to fight. But God's answer is unapologetic care for the body, the deepest yet most neglected of needs. What does it mean that in response to the terrors of the world, God would have us lie down, to eat, to drink from still waters? The most enduring yet undermined sentiment of evangelism. Come to me, all you that are weary, and I will give you rest. Now, this is hard work, the work of faith and justice, spirituality and creation care, climate action, grief and hope. And I wonder how you are experiencing rest, where you're finding space to breathe. So I'm going to invite you to be in the breakout rooms, and we'll just be in groups of 2 or 3. You're just going to have a few minutes, but maybe share your name, your community of faith, or your community that you're part of, and then a little bit more about how this stood out for you, or just where you're finding rest or hope in your creation. And then you'll meet again. You'll have another chance to share later on. So during this time, if you are able to unmute and turn on your video, this is the community time. So, and if you haven't done this before, there'll be a little message that comes on, and you just push yes if you want to join that group. Hello.
Hi, Scott. We've been just trying to get on. I'd reserved for today, and then I didn't get the link that I could tell. This is Rosemary Blakemore at Journey Church in Seattle.
Great. Welcome.
Are we the only one? Nobody else here?
No, there are a bunch of people here. They're all in small groups. So can I move to a small group?
I guess so. Yeah, Lanny should be coming back on too, because he just got off to get me on. So hopefully, okay, room 5. Thanks.
Yeah.
Christian Church in Des Moines, Iowa. So yeah, if you have some of those pictures I sent you, is this when you want to show them, or you want me to talk first, or how do you want to do that, Scott?
Go ahead. You can start
Okay.
introducing what you've got, and I'll start sharing it.
Okay, very good. So basically, 3 years ago, the pastor approached me about a community garden, and and this was to be a garden that anybody could share in. You could be driving by and see a head of cabbage you'd like and stop and get it, or a tomato you want to take home. So truly open to the community and anyone. Um, as we discussed that, that was probably the number one priority. Uh, but we also talked about, or I suggested, I don't want to plow up any new areas. And as you can see in this picture, it's our church sign, and around it there's rock mulching. But I found that I could dig down into that rock mulching, easily auger a little space, and you can see cabbage planted here, squash planted here, and just did this in other landscaping areas, not wanting to plow up new ground and disturb current yard. We also decided we wanted to introduce native species best we could each year. So we've added several pollinator plants and things that were in the prairies before we broke it years and years ago. So the other thing that happens is each Sunday, whatever produce is ready, we have a table in the entrance. And eventually, this last Sunday, we had radishes, we had kohlrabi, we had onions, we had spinach, and there's plastic bags there, and there's a cooler with things that need to be kept cool. And as people come and go, they get what they would like. And eventually we'll have tomatoes, peppers, on and on and on. And everybody really enjoys that. We have 4 congregations meeting at our church, and all are welcome to share in this. The other thing that we do is take loads of produce to the food pantry. So this is our 3rd year. Our first year doing this, after anybody in the community helped themselves, people on Sunday morning helped themselves, I was able to get 600 pounds to the local food pantry of vegetables. So last year, being our 2nd year, that went up to 1,500 pounds to the food pantry. And so the goal this year is a couple thousand pounds. If we could hit a ton of food to the food pantry, that would be amazing. So also on Thursday nights, every Thursday night, we feed folks about 100 takeout meals. People will drive through and take their meal. Along with that, when we have produce coming off, we hand them tomatoes, peppers, things of that nature. So some of the plants that we're growing this year is onions, radishes, spinach, kohlrabi, eggplant, cabbage, broccoli, 6 different varieties of peppers, including a lot of jalapenos, 6 varieties of tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, butternut squash, Brussels sprouts. So I think there was something else that I wanted to mention. So we're still on that first picture. Did you want to put some others on there, Scott? If that's it, that's fine. I don't know. Are we supposed to take?
Can you see I'm on like slide 3. Can you see these?
I see the ones on the side. I've only ever seen one on the screen. I'm sorry.
Is anyone else?
They don't seem to be moving.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not good.
Are you able to click play?
That's what I did. Yeah, I will try again. So I'm unsharing it, and then I will share it again. Is that working?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just other landscaping areas that weren't being utilized. And again, just clearing a little gravel, cutting down through the weed barrier, have a little auger on my cordless drill and plant a plant. And amazing, this particular area by the mailbox, you see the front of the mailbox, thick clay. I thought, man, I'll never grow anything there, yet we're getting all kinds of broccoli. The plants are beautiful. I don't understand it, but I'm not going to argue against it. It's awesome. It's awesome. So I don't know if any of the other slides, but one of the slides I wanted to show, we used to have, okay, so this is out in another area, and this is tomato plants and peppers, zucchini. This is one cabbage plant just in a spot, but behind it a rain barrel. We're catching rain and watering with rainwater. To the right, just over that bush, you can see the black composter where kitchen refuse is being composted. There's another shot, if we can move on, if it shows up here, that, yeah, this one on the right, it's hard to tell what's going on there. That whole row along the front is jalapeno peppers. And in the background is all sort of native plants. So last year that row was tomatoes, and in behind was these native plants, and now our second year. And there's stiff goldenrod in there, and there's echinacea, purple curry clover, blue sage, indigos, blue indigo. And so these native plants now will just continue to thrive and get better each year. This year I wanted something shorter in front because the tomatoes got so robust, they were shading out my native plants. And so this year the native plants are getting plenty of sunlight. And the picture there on the left is cabbage plant, no, broccoli and cabbage. And on the far left up towards the church building, that is stiff goldenrod. And right by the cabbage there in the front, there's some plantain. Now this plantain grows out in our yards and we mow, and it shoots up this little white head, and we all think it's so ornery, but you get it by itself in the garden, it's beautiful. And it's highly edible. Many people around the world eat plantain. So it's kind of fun to let something like that go occasionally. So don't know.
That's
Back
great.
to rain barrel. So we're good. I think, Scott, that's primarily what I wanted to show. You can just take space that you already have. Easily we could have gone out. We got a big property plowed, and but wasn't necessary. We're getting an amazing amount of food off of areas that prior to that, Candace and I was just trying to keep the weeds out of it. And now we're growing vegetables. So it's pretty amazing stuff, really.
Thank you very much. It's amazing. Almost 200 pounds from a non-garden garden, you know, like it just is really powerful the ways that you all are sharing food. And we know that everyone can relate to food, and not everyone thinks they have the space to grow food. And so you guys have really done a good job of being creative with your space and ingenuity and generosity. Thank you. Yeah. Emily is she's a sustainability director from Christmount Christian Assembly in Black Mountain, North Carolina. Welcome.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Hurd, and I'm representing Christmount. And if I can see your face, or if I can't, if you can, give me a wave or a little digital reaction or anything, thanks. It's nice to see that human contact. And I'm thinking about Highland Park Christian Church, and the Bill's talking about food production and how much that can be a solution for climate change as we move forward, as food becomes more and more scarce in different parts of our world, different parts of our country. Growing food can be part of the solution. And I also wanted to highlight partnership from Highland Park Christian Church, because he talked about finding different groups and organizations to work with. And it's huge, right? It's huge in making a difference and spreading our impact. So I wanted to start by talking about Christmount, sustainability at Christmount. And as many of you may know, we're formerly the National Conference Center for the Disciples of Christ. And I'm fairly new to Christmount. I've been there for less than a year, and I'm fairly new to the Disciples of Christ and Green Chalice. And with Green Chalice, I found a glimmer of hope that that combines my spirituality with my care for the earth. So I'd like to talk to you specifically about clean energy, and a really exciting innovation that we have underway. But I first wanted to start and tell you, I recently read part of a book by Joanna Macy and Chris Johnston called Active Hope. And thanks, Scott, for that recommendation. And one of the things that touched me was this idea that hope is a practice, right? And we can practice hope when we're faced with overwhelming challenges. And there are 3 steps, they say. First, we can take a clear view of reality. And second, we can identify what we hope for in terms of change and the direction that we'd like to go. And third, we can take steps to move ourselves or our situation in that direction. Really, it's acknowledging that there's so many steps. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, right? When we think about environmental well-being and taking care of humans, and at the same time for organizations to maintain a budget and a profit, it all can be pretty overwhelming. And so I'd like to share some of Christmount's response to the needs in our communities, the ecological needs and the social needs. And like Bill was talking about, we also focus on food production, particularly on our campus. But I'd like to describe to you a microgrid project, a mobile microgrid project that we've just undertaken, thanks to partners called Critical Services Microgrid Group, that works in North Carolina and around the country. And so what is a microgrid? Well, a microgrid is an electrical system that can take power from photovoltaic panels. So takes power from solar panels and then can store that power in batteries. So that sounds pretty basic, but when you think about how that can be applied when it comes to climate change, natural disasters, and so forth, microgrids can be magic when we lose power, right, and go off grid. So solar power, as some of you may know, is pretty darn expensive, and there's a lot of new funding. And one of the things that Christmount has done is we've installed a rooftop solar system on our guest house, and we're offsetting about 60% of our energy needs from that one building through solar energy, and we had 60% of the cost covered by national and state incentives. So the Inflation Reduction Act is covering 40% of our cost. It's pretty amazing. If your communities haven't looked into solar funding, please do that, because it's really exciting. It's becoming a lot more affordable. So the solar company that we worked with to do that said, look, Emily, you all have a lot of golf carts around your campus. If any of you have visited Christmount, you may know that we use golf carts to transport people around our 600-acre property, but really just the small center. And so Soul Farm here in North Carolina said, if you put a solar panel on the top of that golf cart and you convert and you change out the battery from a lead acid to a lithium iron phosphate battery, not only is it no longer messy with leaking acid and lots of maintenance for the battery, but you can store solar energy and use it for a variety of needs. So our guests can plug in their phones if we're driving around campus doing a tour. Our maintenance manager can take an electric power drill over to any remote location on our campus and use power tools. But the purpose that is most meaningful and perhaps holds the most significance when we think about the future and climate change adaptation is that we can use microgrids on a larger scale, to provide communities with their basic needs when we lose power during natural disasters. So in 2017, when Hurricane Irma came through North Carolina and Western North Carolina, we lost power for 24 hours on our campus. And Christmount is not only a conference center, but we provide utilities for 90 surrounding houses. So the water went down, the power went down for around 100 families. And our maintenance staff were stationed at the wellheads that power water to the community for 24 hours, pouring gasoline into the generators to keep water pumping to our houses. And with the power of mobile microgrids connected to these golf carts, that changes things completely. It's a wholly different reality, because then all we have to do is take these mobile microgrids and now provide power to our water system. And then last year, in 2021, we had a number of refugees from Afghanistan who were fleeing political conflict, who lived on our property for quite a while. So these experiences have helped Christmount in partnership with our Green Chalice and Disciples of Christ congregations. We have a vision of how Christmount can provide a safe haven for people fleeing natural disasters and political conflict as we move forward. And microgrids, solar microgrids are a big part of that solution, that we can provide a home, a safe place, energy, running water, and so forth for people that are struggling. So I'm dropping a link in the chat. I didn't want to share my screen, but I do have a little photo slide to share, so that you can look at it now or later and contact me if you want more information, or if you have any first suggestions for us. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And you said you were going to put your email address. Would you mind putting your email address, or is it in the slide?
I'll do both.
And Bill,
Thank
I'm not sure if you feel comfortable putting yours in there, but I know people would probably be interested in connecting with you all directly. I will say that Creation Justice Ministries has been talking about climate hospitality, and Christmount Emily described this 600 acres, which has some conservation easements and a lot of forest in the mountains there, but they also have homes and space to receive people fleeing disaster. And our congregations, many congregations, are doing that kind of hospitality in a variety of ways for humans and for creatures, and just wanted to lift that element up. It was kind of a new concept for me, that word climate hospitality, allowing our table, if you will, to extend into the world in powerful ways. So thank you, Emily Hurd, for your good work and for Christmount's example. And we'll read through the chat, but just there are great comments and affirmations for both Bill and Emily, what you're doing and your ministries there, and people are inspired by what's happening, and we're excited to hear from Kelly Ravenscroft and Kraft and from Mission Hills Christian Church out in California, and grateful that you're here to share with us your amazing ministries as well.
Yeah, and I extend the gratitude to you all. I truly see the work that we are doing as we are all participating and creating together, right? It takes us all in all corners of the US and even far beyond that to get to where we hope to be together. Can you all see this screen right here? Okay, awesome. I want to share a little bit of our 7-year journey. Mission Hills is one of the first disciples churches to go carbon neutral, and we are actually now a carbon negative church. So I will explain a little bit more of what that means. And again, it has been a 7-year journey. So it's come with ups and downs, lots of fights with gophers, to be honest. We're doing our best to be hospitable to them while simultaneously trying to keep our community garden alive. So starting in 2016, Ryan Pryor, who is our lead pastor here at Mission Hills, took over and really wanted to root our community with environmental justice at the forefront. So this began our journey of partnering with Green Chalice. There's a green team that was created to help kind of vision, what does space look like? What does our liturgy look like to reflect this? And then who are the people in our community that we can connect with? Because we fully believe in, abundance model versus scarcity, that the more people on board, the better. And so one of the folks that we partnered with was a group called Tree People. They did a number of workshops. This is also kind of our first step, was adding recycling. We didn't even have recycle bins at the church. And yeah, we've been able to make it this far now. So then over to 2017, this was when we did get our Green Chalice certification. We started hosting events that folks, even in the community, could attend with vegan dinner, mindfulness, and starting to figure out, where does climate care and the environment work in our liturgy. So every September, we have an environmentally focused month and series. And this year, we're going to be doing a special event, inviting some musicians, a poet, and some mixed media artists out for kind of an interactive night, specifically focused on environmental care. This was kind of continuing to figure out what a community garden would look like. There were some folks who were so important at the beginning of building it, figuring out the space. I wish I had included a picture of it so you could kind of see a little bit more, and maybe I can include that another time as well. And then into 2018, we started partnering with the Disciples Church Extension Fund to get our solar panels put in place. So through a green loan, we were able to get them installed. Now they cover actually 100% of our electricity. And unfortunately, we are creating so much solar that the grid is not able to handle it and put it back in yet. So we're trying to figure that out with LA as they are also figuring out their own grid system. So that way it'll be able to extend kind of beyond our property. These were some of the other events that we attended, and we started kind of looking at, what are the ways that we can remove grass or things or plants that needed a lot of water, really trying to go with that drought resistant mindset. And we had a lot of events kind of as a community putting those things together too. 2019, this was more of our garden workshops. Our climate series continued, again, attending a lot of events, and then trying to figure out, okay, how can we package this so that other communities or individuals in our community can access the things that we have kind of pulled together. We hope to be kind of a central base for folks to be able to see what are the documentaries, the events in the area, what are other ways that we can get involved that doesn't just require you to be working at Mission Hills or being part of the Mission Hills community. How do we extend beyond that? 2020 was an interesting year, but it was also, I think, one of the things that we reclaimed was that we were able to use our community garden as an outdoor space to do social distance services. So thankfully, our garden space is big enough that we're able to do this safely, especially towards the end of 2020. And since then, having a garden Sunday has become part of our normal rhythm. So we will do a couple of worship songs. We'll have someone who is presenting, sharing a little bit more about a specific kind of plant or gardening technique. And we'll do that together as a community. And what we love at Mission Hills is that folks, regardless of if they're coming every single week, they might feel more comfortable with church in the garden than they might kind of in the traditional liturgical sense. So this is one way that we really feel we're able to stay connected with folks who are just as passionate about the environment as we are. And then 2021, we continue to figure out how we might further include it in our liturgy and really try to embody it as a community together. We've recently connected with a couple more nonprofits. And then this is when we also started our process of becoming carbon neutral and carbon negative. So we are a 1% for the Planet member, which means that at minimum 1% of any funding that we receive each year is donated back to 1% for the Planet, who then is able to designate those funds to organizations that are doing climate-focused work. We also purchase carbon offset, which this is funding that goes back into these organizations. They might be doing projects locally or more broadly, and we purchase enough that covers kind of what carbon emissions we as a community would create by getting ourselves to church, if that makes sense. So we cover all of the carbon emission that folks create driving to and from our community. And then from there, we are, and as you all know this as a Green Chalice community, but we are trying to still figure out, okay, how can we partner with folks? How do we begin the dreaming process with other communities that, might see this and might feel a little bit overwhelmed, but know that we started with recycling bins. And we're so grateful that through a number of folks who have been part of a process, we are continuing to do this work and to do it together. So that is a little bit of Mission Hills. There's so much more that I could share, but I won't take too much more of your all's time. But thank you for the opportunity to share with y'all.
Amazing.
So good.
So grateful for your sharing and for the 7 years of ingenuity and collaboration and intentionality to both inspire us, challenge us, but also remind us that it's not going to happen this year. Like it requires us to for beginning, it takes time and a team of people. So thank you so much for the beautiful way that you shared those stories with us. Oh, so we have time for us to get back together to both reflect on what you heard. I'm going to put in the chat some questions to prompt you. Just try to make sure everyone has a chance to respond to what you've seen and or what's happening in your own congregation. If you have questions for people, we'll spend about 8 minutes in the small groups, and then we'll pull you back and we'll do a closing benediction time. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to turn off the... Welcome back. I wanted to share just a few upcoming events and announcement opportunities for you. And like we said before, we hope that you will leave here not feeling like you have a list of things to do or projects. The design is to inspire ideas, but not to bog you down with more to do, because we recognize that we're all limited in our spirit and in our bodies, and want to trust that whatever is stirring in your community, your context, your own life, listen deeply to that. So I'm going to put a few things in the chat, and that's optional. The first one is a little survey, and it's asking if you're interested in volunteering or looking at General Assembly or some of those things. You can just take a quick survey. It's not an extensive survey. It's more about like gathering names of people that are maybe going to General Assembly and some other things. Below that is some of the things that are happening at General Assembly, and we're excited to be there. An energy efficiency webinar is happening. Oh, I didn't get the link for that, but that is on June 15th, and it is at 5 o'clock. And that is a opportunity to be looking at a federal grant that we are looking at for congregations to help with energy efficiency. And so if you'd want to come to that, that would be wonderful to learn more about that process. There may be organizations in your own communities that are planning on doing that grant, and or maybe the disciples will win it and then we can help your congregation with energy efficiency work. And then the last is a climate ambassador training. We have over 50 volunteers that have been trained as climate ambassadors that are just disciples of Christ, and the on-demand video training is available all hours of the night. You can take the training, and then you'll be equipped to communicate about climate change and faith. And it's a pretty robust way of exploring this. I want to thank you all again, and thank you so much to our congregations and conference centers for the ways that they have shared their hearts. As we end our time, I wonder if you would unmute yourself and share just a word that you're taking with you, a phrase, or you can put it in the chat as well. But what's a word or phrase that you are going to carry with you from this place tonight?
I guess I would say amazing opportunities. I'm Rosemary Blakemore, not Lanning.
Amazing opportunities.
Great.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said great hope.
Great hope.
We are in this together.
We're in this together.
A new way of being a church.
New way of being a church.
Possibilities are endless.
Possibilities are endless.
Enthusiasm and joy.
Enthusiasm and joy.
For all that's happening.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Gratitude for all that's happening.
Gratitude for all that's happening.
Rest and rejuvenation.
Rest and rejuvenation.
Hope is a practice.
Hope is a practice.
Carbon negative.
Carbon negative.
I like that, Kelly. It's a great term.
Ornery gophers.
Go ahead, Jerry. Sorry.
Ornery gophers we talked about.
Ornery gophers. You're taking the gophers with you. Elaine, did you share yours? I missed it.
I continue instigating. That's what I'm doing. I live in a wooded area full of people who have worked for Exxon, all the Exxon retirees. That's what our church is full of. And so I've got an educational, I'm instigating new ideas.
The sacred instigation.
Yeah, something like that.
I threw in the sacred. That was a little liberty I took. Sorry, that's not your word. Others.
You go, girl.
Other words you carry with you.
Partnering with others in community, working with other groups in the community.
Collaborating and partnering with others in the community.
Co-creating.
Co-creating. Well, thank you all. Would you pray with me? God, we are grateful for the ways that things grow, how we are inspired by creatures and people, by congregations, by our own capacity to understand who we are in you. We ask to find opportunities to do good work that bring us joy, that don't deplete us. We ask for space to rest, to be inspired, to practice hope, and to lean into your love and grace. Thank you for tonight and for the stories that we've heard and for the inspiration that continues to draw us nearer to you and to one another. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Great to be with you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
a lot.
Many blessings.
Take care.
Blessings, y'all.